Hi, my name's Heather Ellis, and thank you very much for having me on the Virtual Overland Expo series. I'm going to talk to you today about my travels through Africa riding a Yamaha TT600. So this photo here, I'm in northern Kenya, and this little story I want to share with you that sort of encapsulates really the whole meaning of my travels. It was late in the afternoon. I got a flat tire. I practiced fixing punches, but I really struggled to sort of make this one happen, getting the tire lever between the tire and the rim. And it's getting dark and there's lions about, so this was at the back of my mind. Then two Samburu guys wandered out of nowhere and they helped me fix the tire, and then they just disappeared into the wilderness. And an hour later, I was at a local hotel drinking a cold beer and eating ugali and goat meat stew. Now, this kind of help happened all the time on my travels, and it sort of became a philosophy of my journey. I decided not to worry, that things would always work out, and they always did, which is, you know, there's many people I'm sure have got the same kind of stories. So this is a map of my journey, and as you can see, I kind of went sort of all over the place by cargo ship from Australia, and then another cargo ship from Mauritania up to Europe. And that journey was over 14 months, 42,000 kilometres and 15 countries. Out of those travels came my first book, Ubuntu, One Woman's Motorcycle Odyssey Across Africa. And that you're probably wondering what this word Ubuntu means. And I came across this word when I was in South Africa, and an African woman said to me, you know, "Oh, white woman, why you travel Africa?" And I responded, there's a kind of humanness here that we don't have in the West. And it was that kind of connection that people have when they walk past each other on the street, they say hello and so on. And this woman said to me, you know, as you travel Africa, the African people will help you. This is Ubuntu. And that is exactly what happened to me. And that's why, you know, I call the book Ubuntu. It just seems such a perfect word that summed up the meaning of my journey. So all this started when I was working and living on the edge of Kakadu National Park in Australia's Northern Territory. I'm actually talking to you from Victoria, near Melbourne in Australia, at the southern part of Australia. It's much very different to the Northern Territory. It's very hot and humid and wild, and very rich in Aboriginal culture. And this painting is of from Nalangi Rock, and the figure on the left-hand screen with the ring around him, that's Namagon, the lightning man. And my journey came as like a bolt of lightning out of the blue. I just got this idea one day. I was working at a uranium mine. I was like 27 years old and really restless for adventure. I was working as a radiation safety technician, and then I was at a backyard barbecue one day and drinking a few beers, as you do, and I said to my friends, "Oh, wouldn't it be great to ride a motorcycle across Africa?" And as soon as I said it, I knew I would do it. And from that very moment, everything sort of fell into place for me. Everything like I got this, someone gave me a copy of Ted Simon's Jupiter's Travels. A German motorcycle traveller turned up on my doorstep, and this was before the internet. So I couldn't ask, you know, like Google how to ride a motorcycle across Africa, and here was a wealth of information. The panniers on my bike, they happened to be on the shop floor when I bought my Yamaha TT600 new, and they fitted, and so all these sort of things were kind of like, to me, like signs that this journey was meant to happen, and I was meant to do it. It just felt so right, and like this was kind of my destiny. By cargo ship, took 10 days over to Durban in South Africa. Great way to travel, rather than just flying your bike to a destination. You've really get that sort of slow traveling feeling. I didn't start this trip on my own. About 2 months before I was due to leave, a work colleague said, "Oh, what a great idea. I'd love to do that trip as well." And so he packed his bike and off we went, but we hardly knew each other. And I'm sure everyone's got these you know, horror stories of traveling companions, and that's sort of what happened to me. And my trip really started when I was traveling on my own. And I think if you want to travel and you don't have someone to go with, you just go anyway, because you're not going to be alone for long. You meet so many people when you're out there on the road. So I really started this trip on my own about 4 months into it, and this was from Nairobi in Kenya, and I went to the Masai Mara, and I found that as soon as I started traveling, I met people, and it wasn't as fearful as what I thought it would be. I was so filled with fear and doubt about what would happen. I met other people traveling. There's lots of other people traveling by motorcycles in all sorts of ways and means. When I travelled up to Lake Naivasha, I met this Japanese girl, and she had just arrived in Africa from Tokyo, and the two of us meet, and we just thought, well, we're not the only two crazy women riding motorcycles. We gave each other a lot of confidence. She was heading south and I was heading north, so we spent a few days just building each other's confidence and to go out there on the world on our own. But today there's so many women traveling on motorcycles on their own, so it's not a new thing anymore. So yeah, my travels were I left Australia in 1993 and I arrived back in 1997. So this was like a 4-year journey through Africa and then up to London and then through across Europe and the Silk Roads down to China and Vietnam. So after traveling for a few days on my own, I realized, well, these people aren't going to hurt me. You know, they were just like the rest of us, you know, going about their business, looking after their children, trying to make a living, you know, chatting with their friends. And they were just as curious about me as what I was about them, where I was from, you know, why I was traveling on the motorcycle. Of course, the motorcycle was always a star attraction. Motorcycles have got such street cred, no matter where you go in the world. One of the places I really wanted to go was in northern Kenya. I wanted to go up to Sibolo National Park and, you know, walk in the first footsteps of our ancestors. This is where we all came from. This area of the world is the you know, cradle of humanity, and it meant a lot to me to go there. But I was advised that not to go alone because it's very remote and very sandy, and I could get lost. So I took a guide. That was Sharif. He was from Somalia and knew the area very well. He's the one wearing the black and white headscarf. And he did know the area very well, but he also wanted me to take a detour to search for sapphires. And so we took this detour. He said it was like 50 kilometres off the road, and it would only take a few hours, but it ended up being an 8-day adventure where we got bogged and ran out of food, and met up with some bandits and local bandits in the area, and they gave us some gazelle meat, and I posed did the photo with the AK-47, as you do, and also got bogged. Lots of sandy, dry riverbeds to ride over. So the food, as well as the gazelle meat, we had to like eat this konya fruit, which tastes like gingerbread. Just bang it with a hammer and gnaw on that. Digging for water in dry riverbeds. I mean, at the time, I felt like I was never going to survive, and this was going to be the end. But looking back, it was really, you know, one of the highlights of my travels to have this opportunity to be in such a remote and beautiful part of the world, very remote and wild. We were rescued by Turkana fishermen when we got to the lake, and we're just lucky that they happened to be sailing past as we happened to arrive at the edge of the lake, and they took us to the other side. After that journey, I was thinking, you know, what am I doing in Africa, and should I continue my journey? So as I sort of, you know, decided what I was going to do, I went and hiked Mt Kilimanjaro, and really gave me an idea of, okay, this is why I'm in Africa, just to see this country and to experience all these things, whether they're good or they're bad, and it worked out. And I had this real strong sense of that things would always be okay, and everything happened for a reason. In Nairobi, then I headed into the dark interior, into Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Those tyres I changed when I got to Kampala. I wanted to wear out my old ones for the 700 kilometres of tarmac before I fitted the new tyres that then would take me through the very remote part of Zaire. It's one of the most wild and beautiful places on the planet, but it's also one of the most dangerous. There's no real law and order, and I really had to question what I was doing, but I thought, well, why not? You know, this is, you know, this is what life is about, to just have that faith and go into the world. I just want to show you on the photo here, you'll see at the top, there's a pelican case, and then there's this jerry can between the tyres. I disguised that pelican case, which had all my sort of valuables and papers and things like that in it, inside this jerry can, because, you know, you had to learn to be quite street smart when you're in these countries, and not show any wealth, and if you do have any valuables, to kind of hide them so that they wouldn't stand out, and if you were held up by rebels, they wouldn't sort of steal all your papers and belongings and so forth. Again, I mean, I just hope one day Zaire or DRC is one of those places that will really become a lot safer for tourists to travel, because it offers so much in the way of adventure for the overlander, and the places you can go that you can get to riding an enduro bike like a Yamaha TT600. You know, go up and see the gorillas and walk amongst a troop of gorillas. It's a, you know, one of those amazing experiences. I hiked into the Ituri rainforests and just sort of stayed with the pygmies, just watch what they're doing and hunted with them. And I was so grateful that they welcomed me, you know, to be there, and didn't mind me being there, but observing them really. Climb the Rwenzori Mountains. It's a stunning part of the world. It was when I was up in the Rwenzoris again, I sort of started to really, you know, you're spending a lot of time on your own, as well as talking to the local people, but you just spend a lot of time thinking about spirituality and sort of that, you know, what it all means. So this is the mud highway going through through Zaire to Kisangani. It's about 700 kilometres of road. That's a lot of it is like that. But again, Africa is one village, and so the people were always helping me whenever I fell off the bike. I just have to sort of wait, not very long, and somebody would wander along. Another highlight of my journey was travelling down the Zaire River from Kisangani to Kinshasa, and this was about a month on the river, you know, 2,500 kilometres. I was very fortunate to arrive in Kisangani when there was a massive barge of timber that was going down to Kinshasa. It was 8 Rhine River barges tied together, carrying about 3,000 people at one time towards the end, and it was like living in an African village for a month without any walls. And again, I befriended many of the people on the barges, and one of the things I had was a pair of binoculars, and every day that people would ask me for these binoculars, and so that they could look at the villages on the river banks, and also the other barges going by, to wave at their friends. And each afternoon the binoculars would come back to me. The other thing I had was a small photo album of photos of my family and where I lived in Australia. And that again also would do the rounds of the barges, and the people would look through the photos and they would bring it back to me in the afternoon. My camp is sort of over to the left of the screen at the sort of end of these logs. My tent is there. That was my home. There we are. So on this journey, it was, you know, to me, it was like I call it a slow meander into the soul of Africa. And then everywhere I went, the people always wanted to offer me food, even though, you know, they have nothing. You know, have nothing in the way of of material possessions that we seem to think is of value, but they did have a lot of wealth in their with their community and their family, and the connections that they have to each other. And this is towards the end of Africa. I did find Ubuntu. I really, understood the meaning behind it, and that journey really changed my way of looking at what is meaningful in life. That our family and our friends and our experiences is really what it's all about. So I'm holding a cane wrap there. I pulled up and people said to me, "Oh, here's a cane wrap. You're hungry, eat this." But yeah, no, I gave it back to them. And I'd call into a village, and I would never sort of sleep just anywhere on my own. So I'd call into a village and ask if I could camp for the night, like to sleep in my tent. But the head man or the chief would welcome me and offer me a hut, but I'd say, no, I'll have to sleep in my tent. In the tropics, these huts have got no ventilation, so they're not very, very comfortable to sleep in for me anyway. But I would always try and take food for the table, like a loaf of bread or some sugar, because people would always want to feed me, and they wouldn't, I'd go to pay, but they wouldn't accept any payment for me being there. I was, to them, I was a guest. So I really like this photo. This is crossing from Congo into Gabon. The bridge had broken down and the ferries had long since sunk, and they were sort of all half submerged on the riverbank. And the only way to cross this river was on these little tiny raft boats, and I was on another boat, and I was very nervous about this was going to be the complete end of my journey. And I asked the guy, what did the French word say, le demande, excuse my French. And he said, this means I am friend of all the world. And that sort of sums up the African people have got such a great sense of humor and so warm and welcoming to the entire world. They are a friend of all the world. So my journey ended in Africa when I reached Mauritania. Mauritania is, it's a Muslim country. So I, was like, had to wear a headscarf, and fortunately, in a way, my motorcycle jacket got stolen in Kinshasa, and the only thing I could buy to wear as a motorcycle jacket was this old trench coat. And the good thing about it is it covered me completely, so I was very respectful of the culture. I also got very good at changing flat tires. You can see that Michelin rear desert there is very worn because I couldn't buy a new one anywhere in North Africa, so I had to kind of ride on with this very bald rear tire and got punches continuously, but I did get very good at fixing them in the end. So from Africa, I ended up in London, where I worked as a motorcycle courier for about 12 months. And then out of that, I then continued traveling home through Europe and the Silk Road. And that's another journey. Today, I still ride motorcycles around the Yarra Ranges where I live. My bike at the moment is this Triumph Thruxton. And I still have my Yamaha TT600, and he is patiently waiting in my shed for our next adventure. And but that's not until my 3 boys are grown. They're teenagers now, so when they're off doing their own thing, I'm hoping to head off to South America and beyond. So the 2 books that came out of my travels is Ubuntu and Timeless on the Silk Road. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and listening to me today, and I really do hope to see you all at Overland Expo West next year. Thank you so much. Bye.